Welcome everyone for coming. Leonard, everyone knows. We know Leonard so well, and he's a well-established artist, and he's a master of doing all the work. And we are so fortunate to have Leonard's lifelong work here, and Leonard will show us his technique and his master of mind.
Yes.
And thanks, and here you go.
Thank you, Frank. Am I anyone sweating here? Anyway, thanks for coming. I sort of know everybody here in a way, by sight or name. It's really like awkward and challenging and exciting to talk to you. I don't know what you want to talk about. I mean, I have a lot of things to say. I wrote a list. And I need 2 volunteers. You're a volunteer. Don't open it. Don't open it. You're a volunteer. Don't open it.
Don't open it.
There are 10 ideas I have on that sheet that I want to get across, and there are 10 questions that I think you're going to ask. So when you don't ask the question, I'm going to ask somebody to read the question. So we'll start with a question. Well, I'll start, and then you come up with a question. The statement that is in the piece on the wall is about art being, all art is autobiographical. I heard that originally. I thought it was Picasso, then it turns out it's
Could you say that again?
I'm sorry?
All lives.
All art is autobiographical. The idea being that if I make something for a reason. I make something that represents my thoughts, or something that's handy. But in a sense, everything we do represents us. The car, just my car, it represents me. It's got more Band-Aids on it than it does original body. And that's the way I work. I make mistakes. I make 1,000 mistakes, and I make 1,001 corrections. So most of this stuff just happens, but I kind of know where I'm going from the very beginning. Historically, I was born in New York. I was raised in New York. I moved out when I was 26, got married when we were 24. Then we went to Iowa immediately 2 years later, and I started teaching art. And then after that, for 6 years, then I went to Pennsylvania, and I taught art there. The only reason I got a job in Iowa, I don't know why I got the job in Iowa. I sent out 400 letters of application to 400 schools in America with nothing but a master's degree and 6 years of graphic design. And one place called, they said, "You're still interested in a job?" I said, "Yes." And then we made an arrangement when I would come out, and I said, "Well, what is the job actually? What am I teaching?" And they said, "Calligraphy and lettering in an advertising design program." At the time, I was working as a graphic designer. My wife says, "What do you know about calligraphy and lettering?" I said, "I got an A in the course." And so I studied for like 4 weeks and planned the entire semester. I went to Iowa, and then I got the job, which was ridiculous because I was unemployed and driving a cab at the time. And they said, I kept talking calligraphy and changing in capitals and uncials, and they said, "We don't want to talk to you about that. We brought you here to see if we like you." Luckily, I brought my wife because they liked us both, and that started the career. But I had to keep painting because that was really the reason to do things. And sharing that with other people was a great life. I loved doing that. So now I'll take a question.
So, is it India ink?
Oh, yeah.
Most of these, and also
You
when
gotta
it dries.
cross off the question that says, "What's the medium?"
Is it India ink, and when it dries, can you remove it? I'm guessing you can put it on and wipe it away, but if you put it on and let it dry, can you scrape it away?
Yeah.
Like that telephone pole where it's...
I brought a bigger piece inside I didn't wax. India ink is waterproof when it dries. But like acrylic paint, it's waterproof, but after a while it dries really secure, you can't do much. Same thing with India ink. For a few days, you can wipe it off maybe with a sponge and some water, but after that it's permanent. But yeah, it doesn't go in the surface. It's a plastic paper. It's some sort of polymer.
Yeah.
I say plastic at a chemist, so you know, it's like saying wood. There are lots of woods, there are lots of plastics. I don't know what the chemistry is, but UPO is a printing industry paper, and the catalog is printed on UPO, the one that's on the table. So it takes ink, but it doesn't go in the paper. It just sits on top. So while it's still on the paper and it's dry, I can take my fingernail and scratch a line, or I can rub it off. When it's really dry and hard, then I have to use ammonia, dilute it with water, and that'll dissolve the dry ink. And if it's been there a couple of years and I really can't get it off with the ammonia and water, then I rely upon a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, because it's magic and it'll take away everything. And while I'm working, I use that too. It's not essential, but it's easy. So I can go back to white paper at any moment. There's no ink in the paper.
Right.
Like regularly, you put ink down, it's there. You can't get rid of it. So it's give and take. That's all it is. It's just, I can take off everything I put down and add on top of wherever I took it. There's no erasure marks like in drawing that you have to deal with. So it suits me because I'm sloppy. And I clean up my mess when I'm finished. And then when it's all done, I use paste wax called Tree Wax, or True Wax, T-R-E-W-A-X. You buy it in the hardware store, it's clear. Just like you wax a car, if people used to wax cars. Yeah, rub on, rub off, and then, so now I'm touching wax. I can't hurt the if this were not wax, I'd be scratching all these black lines off. So it's terribly sensitive until I wax it. And then you can throw your martini on it. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're very brave to say, and I totally agree that everything we do, every mark we put down is about us. And if you would have, I really want to hear about that one there. And I've looked at your work for a long time.
This one?
Yeah, and I think that the black and white, you get the light, it's luminous, and yet you're able to include some painful stuff, and it's all there. And so I'm in kind of awe of your work.
Well, thanks.
But I'd like to hear, I don't know, either of these wires, those are pretty powerful, especially for today, and also that face, how it has to do with your life.
Why do you say especially today?
Well, because I think that whenever, the minute I hear about the news, I feel like those wires, like such tension.
I'm a very unhappy person. I am really pissed off about the way things are.
Yeah.
And it bothers me that anybody with a connection to the world can say anything they want, and anybody who wants to believe it can believe it. So to me, these are the most, actually they're ancient and these are archaic. We don't need these anymore.
Calligraphic, it reminds me of.
Well, the reason, let's go back to that first one. Okay. The funny thing is, I wanted to be an abstract painter all my life. I really think if I had to have a bias and a prejudice, I prefer abstract art, because if I had to have a bias or prejudice, I don't have a bias or prejudice, but if I had to, because making something look like something is easy. You know exactly what you're looking for, and when you're finished, it looks exactly like that. Making something feel like something is different. So my goal is to try to make this stupid pole feel like something, or the airplane feel like something, because I feel like something. When I look at that, when I made that one, it was when Bush, the second one, decided to go to war, and I was in, it was 2000, what, 9/11, 2001, and then by, that's when we were hit with the airplane. And then 2 months later, I'm sitting in Weir Farm Trust. It's the only state park in Connecticut. And they have artist residency. So I was there, my mother visited, we went to the hardware store because she needed stuff. I bought one of these airplanes. And I'm throwing the airplane around in the room and I'm listening to the news, you know, and kids are back at war now. And I played with these airplanes when I was a kid because I guess all my life I've been training for this. And I think it was, to me, it bothered me because I was remembering the Vietnam War and all the kids that died there. And so it's a wonderful thing, but I put it in a war situation because these things happen and they bother me.
Forever good.
It's like, it's the power of it and the vulnerability. and
Where's that
it's
voice
a
coming
toy.
from? Wait a minute. I have hearing aids. I don't know who's talking.
Me.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a better image because it's this vulnerable thing, like a child's toy in the middle of the war scene. I mean, you got it.
Well, that's who dies. The 18-year-olds die.
Yeah.
You know, the 78-year-olds don't do anything.
Yeah, and the leaders are killing them.
The funny thing about that one is I was upset, not because of politics, personal stuff. You're a sandwich at some point in your life, your mother's driving you crazy, your wife's driving you crazy, the kids are driving you crazy. And it was a problem, and I was sketching myself suffering, you know. And then years later I went to those and I decided to record some of those images that I was thinking my head looked like, you know, or how I felt. But that one in particular, I really want to be a great abstract painter. And I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Everything is landscapes, and that's no offense to landscape painters, because I think you do what I can't do. But I never won. Every year we had this competition, regional competition. And I put my paintings in and I'd get second place, third place, and no place. And I wanted to win one day. So I did I did that one. I did it to the size that was the maximum size, because I wanted to win. And sure enough, I got all the pats on the head I never would get when I was a graphic designer. Because people like to recognize, you know, but in abstraction, you have to create a whole life entity. There is no knowing it's not even the thing when it's done, it's an entity. It has conflicting issues, it has colors and stuff. So you have to create a world, and then at the end, I don't even know if it's a good one because it's my opinion. And then if enough people say, yeah, it's a damn good painting, then I know it's a good painting. But I'm still looking for that. You know, I make something, I hold it up. What do you think? And people say, I like it, so that's good. If they say they don't like it, well, I feel bad, but they probably don't know what they're talking about. All right, so that answers that question.
I got a question.
Hey, Doc.
This.
If you're going to do a piece of work, okay, you decide, like, this is what I'm going to do, and you're like 40 years ago versus today, like going into it, how do you go at it mechanistically? Is there any difference like 40 years ago as to today, like just what you do to prepare to get things ready, and also your thought process as well?
It hasn't changed.
See,
The world changes, and no, I still approach everything the same way. I think I understand your question, but 40 years ago I could have done it. I spent more time on paintings than I was 40 years ago. That's about it. I'm in a hurry now, and this medium is quick. It's not oil. I can't do oil. I did oils. I did a lot of oils in 1984, but I did an acoustic system, which I mixed a lot of turpentine, so I got really sick that year, because I did painting every day, and I lived in an attic, or painted in an attic. So by the end of the year, the brain and the eyeballs weren't right, and now I just get really reactive when I work with oil. So I had to get away from oils. So I went to acrylics, and then from acrylics I went to gouache, which is most everything in another room, because gouache is safe, it doesn't smell. You can clean it up, it doesn't dry hard. Again, it's forgiving. And also, things happen when you start putting the paint together, it's not like acrylics where you go back and now this one's dominant, now this one's dominant. Here, every time you touch the old paint, it revives the old paint. And so sometimes you don't know what's going to happen when you put a color on top of a color. So to me, that's more discovery. Here, I know the end product, I just don't know how I'm going to get there. And it's fun. Although, any other questions? Because I want to talk about...
I have a question about this issue that you brought up already, that you really prefer abstract art to things that you can recognize. And I want to phrase it in terms of, on the scale of 1 to 10, what is content, subject matter, where does that line, where does that position itself in your attitude?
In most things, it's essential. My attitude is present, and the content is totally present in that one, and in this one.
These series?
Yeah, this one is weird to me because this is the very last piece I did this spring, and I didn't know if I liked it or not. So I put it on the bedroom wall. Nobody said anything. And one day my wife says, "I really like that," and somebody else, "I really like that." And then while it's been up here, people look at it and say, "Wow, I really like that." And I don't know why, because I didn't make it to be. I just made it because I was frustrated. I was trying to make paintings with just a single brush for a long time. To me, a long time is a year.
That becomes a kind of a...
Content is the most important thing,
You know,
I think.
my take of your work is the strongest when you actually depict things. What brought me to your work in the first place was the portrait you made of your mother.
Right.
And you stand in the front of that and you confront getting older, you know where you're headed, and you know that there are all these emotions that you can read into that face and you can't get away from it. It sticks with you on many levels, deep into your soul. I think these things that's the true of all of your portraits, really, because you're confronting another person in a way. The man you did at Crowell Gallery, where it's a very big graphic shape that you have, but then this man staring at you with this anger, you know, that we recognize as Trumpism and, you know, the redneck and, you know, all kinds of things. So it gets your mind going. These things are also powerful to me because, one, they're like crucifixes, but they're crucifix also they're based on what we have here, I think. They look like a third world. And these have not transitioned to wireless information system. And they have a power to them, and you can see how these things could lead to fires, you know, huge fires, like in California.
That's where I show them, and that's what they thought of.
Yeah, well, so it's a thought process but when you just look at this stuff,
Yeah.
to me, it's empty compared to the things where you actually have a subject matter.
You know, we can go to the same restaurant, and I won't like what you order, and you won't like what I order,
Yes.
but they're both good food. And I have doubt. Doubt is on my list of things to talk about, and I'll get back to you for a minute. But everything is abstract. This is abstract painting. This is an abstract painting. Everything here is abstract. Wait, no, there's nothing real here.
You can't say this is abstract.
Yes, it is. There's nothing real. There's reality and there's abstraction. This is not a pole. It's not what it looks like. It looks like something, but it's not a thing itself. To me, that's a thing. That object, it doesn't represent anything but itself. And I'm torn between those two worlds. Do I make something that a person recognizes, or do I make something that exists all by itself? To me, abstraction is when you create an entity that exists all by itself. I don't really have I don't have a bias, I guess. I like them both. I understand if you put two dots in a line and a third dot, you got a face. And people gravitate to that. I can see faces all over the place. The plug, if you look right, has two dots in a thing. So I think people gravitate to the portraits for the simplest matter of trying to reach a human being, trying to make a connection. I don't think we disagree. I think we agree, but don't understand exactly what we're pointing at.
The amount of thought process that goes into that, you know, where it leads you, that's all I'm
Yeah, but to me, that's all activity and process. This is it's just different. It's different. You had something to say, Bob. Bob helped me hang the show, by the way, and did more work than I did. Bob Bowling, thank you.
What I think is interesting about Chris in your conversation is you have the piece in this other room, and I think it's called Ghost.
Yeah.
Now, you started that out as an abstract,
Yeah,
and then you found
it was,
a ghost image in it.
as soon as a human being appeared, I couldn't leave him alone.
Yeah.
You know?
But I told you the story about, I hope, hanging the show, all I saw was an abstract piece like this. I came in here another day, went through the small door over here, as I was walking by, I saw a figure in it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I, at that point, didn't know the piece was called Ghost.
Well, yeah,
So people should take another look at that piece, and I think that, but that started out as an abstract. We didn't probably.
that one to me like crosses a line. It represents, and yet it's truly abstract. There's a few of them, like the code, yeah.
When you were a kid, do you have any, and into your teenagehood before you went away to school, did you have any art that you loved looking at or that you remember specifically that you were just kind of obsessed with? Or what
No,
you like to
I-
look at?
There was no art in my growing up.
Okay.
No, wow.
There was none art at all. My parents, the first museum I ever went to was with a high school class, I think.
What was it? What museum?
The natural history in New York.
Yeah, dinosaurs.
But no, I used to trace things as a kid. There was no money and no support. There was no history of art. So I just traced stuff. I made models. And then Mario Cooper. You know, how many people in here can name their first grade teacher? Okay. Pretty much. My first art teacher, I went to high school, Bronx High School of Science. I didn't want to go to science. I wanted to go to music and art. Music and art was in Harlem. I lived in the Bronx. You're going to be a scientist. You're not going to be an artist. So I went to Bronx High School of Science. Hated it. They had graphic. They didn't have anything. They had mechanical drawing. So then I got to college, and I was led into architecture because that's got AR in it, but it's, you know, it's a real job. So I studied architecture, 2.5 years of failing and taking over calculus and math and doing a lousy job in my first architecture course. This Jan Tereshchenko, Russian guy, he says, "Leonard, you're terrible. I'm going to flunk you for this course and you have to take it all over again, or you drop architecture, I give you a D." All right, that's a deal. So I dropped architecture. I took the D, I switched to the art department. I came home and told my parents, I'm not going to be an engineer, I'm not going to be an architect, I'm going to study art. This is during the Vietnam War. And the South Campus was anti-war. And the North Campus, where I was leaving, was pro-war. So now I'm going from being an American to being a gay communist. So that's what they thought. You're going to be a gay communist artist. So that was the support. So my first drawing class was with Mario Cooper. He came in with charcoal and he had a draped sphere. And he took that white piece of paper and he made a three-dimensional illusion on it. I'd never seen anybody do that. And I was 18 years old, you know? So that was mad. I'm still doing that. I can't get away from that. To me, I went to school, but I never learned a lot. I taught more than I ever learned to people. And I don't know the language of color, and color is a language. I speak this language. I play with the other one, like somebody might try to sound English. So I try to make it look like I know what I'm doing with color. But it's strictly my eyes say, yeah, this works. Yes, sir.
Do you use photography at all?
Pardon?
Do you use photography in your work?
Oh, yeah, I hate to admit it, but yeah, I rely upon photographs. I have a doubt about that. But I have to do my own photograph. So there's a little bit of legitimacy there. But I'm only lately, somebody encouraged me to go outside and work from nature. And I realized it's a whole other world. It's just different. It's a meditative lifestyle, sort of. This is work that I'm used to. Actually responding to real objects is almost foreign to me. It's enriching now that I'm learning how to do it. But I base most of my imagery on a photograph. Because I'm not going to stand there and draw this tower, a pole. And actually, I never intended to do a pole. I did. If you've been to the Fat Crow, there's a big picture of a crow in that restaurant. And Ken, who owns it, he said to me, he said, oh, when I make the restaurant, I'm going to like to put some of your work up. I said, fine. And I suggested a few pieces. He said, I really want a crow. I said, okay. How big? He said, well, that big, 8 feet. I said, fine. I never did a crow. I didn't know what a crow looked like, so I did his crow. And then I did 3 other ones because I work in series. That's another point I wanted to make. I work in series. And the reason is, I know where it has boundaries, and it has direction. Sometimes a series is a grid, sometimes it's a circle, sometimes it's a face, sometimes it's a crow. So I made about 5 crows. And then I was in California, and I heard a crow, and I looked up, and I took a picture, and the crow wasn't there. This was there. No, yeah, this one was there. So I looked at it, and coming from a graphic design background, I recognized right away this amazing arrangement. And then I started thinking about communication and the fact that these are almost archaic now. You don't know where, you used to know where the line went, you know, like who's sending that message? It's at the end of the line. No, now you don't know where the line is. There isn't a line. The message just comes in from the ether. And so the whole idea of communication and the power that it has inspired me to just keep going. But my graphic design told me these are nice shapes. Question?
If you don't mind, I was really interested in what you were saying about your abstractions, and that your goal or your hope is to learn to work abstractly. And that now I've heard you say that your abstractions, you love them because they're objects in and of themselves. This is all fascinating to me. I'm really enjoying this conversation. And I'm wondering if there's something, and I'm thinking most of your abstractions are in the other room, is there something that's risen to the level of okay with you, or something you feel is successful that you've done, and can you talk about why that piece?
Individual pieces?
Sorry?
Some individual pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I need examples. I'm a little concrete that way. But I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just, what is it that makes something successful, and can you point to it so I can see, you know, the example?
I think most of these are successful. But the one that's most personal is that one on the wall. And that went on for a couple of years. And it really records my life from 1975 to whatever, 2023. And I threw everything, and I didn't, the thing is, how many of you know Williamsville of it all? In Williamsville, when we moved here, it was 20 years ago, and we were looking for places to live in Vermont, literally. We bought a little place in Dummerston, and I was driving around thinking, well, is this a good place to move eventually? And Williamsville had this store, the Williamsville store, which was like a Gristedes in New York, planted in the country. And across the street was this, and it still is, it's just a 9-square grid of red paint and the brown wood. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, they got grids up here, you know. And when we were kids, when my kids were, and we were camping in Maine, we didn't have anything but this cabin, no water stuff. So I made a checkerboard, and we made checkers. And I looked at that checkerboard and I thought, wow, that grid, that's really got something going. Just my black, you know, ink grid paper. And I just got really enthralled with the grid. And in teaching graphic design, you can't get away from it. The grid was God, I would tell them. God is the grid. And we would base work on that. So at some point, I didn't want to make a realistic picture. And I just wanted to make a grid. And so I started from the top, and I measured everything. I like T-square and triangle. So I made the grid in pencil, and then I went, okay, white, black, white, black, black, white, black, 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 and then I screwed up. I put, so like the 4th line is wrong. So, okay, so I'll just do all black. And then I went back to black, white, black, white, black, white. And then I think I screwed up again somewhere, yeah. And as I was making the grid, it just wasn't enough. And I kept, things look like things. And so I started, I'll fill every square in with something that means something to me. And so that ends up being, quotations don't go backwards, so you can't read them. So what's the point of putting something you can't read? Well, I'll tell you what it says, and then you say, oh, that's curious. But there's a lot of statements in there that guide me through my life, you know. So that's like the most personal one that's in the room. I don't know if it's a good picture. I don't know if it's a picture. It's my, I call it memoir because it's just my little life story graphically represented there in little bits and pieces.
And is it abstract?
Pardon?
Is it abstract? Is it an abstraction? Do you consider that abstract?
Doubt. Doubt is the handmaiden of truth. I never heard of this guy, but his quote haunts me. His name is Robert Weston, or Weston. I have Robert Weston. You look up, you Google, who said doubt is the handmaiden of truth? And it's a long one, but I'll only read the first 3 lines. I think you'll understand. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the handmaiden of truth. Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It is the servant of discovery. A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error. Right now, we're living with a guy who has a belief system that doesn't accept doubt. And that's really dangerous. And to me, I don't know the answer to your question, but I have doubt. And doubt, I think, is healthy because you never feel settled and you always have to question. So the idea that I had a teacher who said the only real art is sculpture. Because it's real. It's right in front of you. This is not real, this is an illusion. So it's an abstraction. Every 2 dot and line that makes a face is an abstraction. And so in a sense, there's nothing real in an image. It's just fake. What's real is the paper.
Oh, because it's 2-dimensional.
And the ink. And so I'm not sure.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about a lot of things, and that kind of keeps me nervous and busy, you know, sort of. Yes, sir. Oh, thanks. Yeah, Richard.
Well, it might be a little bit more of a different question, but I'm wondering if you could talk about how maybe your art practice has informed your educating, and maybe how your educating has informed your art practice. Or you don't have to answer that at all.
That's not on my list of questions. That's like the 11th question. I didn't think of that one. It does, but I can't be specific because every day I have to explain to people what I believe in.
Once I remember talking about how you taught calligraphy and how you didn't know much about it, but you ended up really liking it. I think you said.
It's what?
And you ended up really liking teaching it. I thought I remember you saying that when you actually gave a little demonstration at the high school.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuck with me. And so maybe even along those lines about, if there was something that but you can't even, you're shaking your head.
No, I know. I'm trying to think of what to say. Because we touched on a lot of things. I have this belief that a piece of art it communicates. And part of, and this is not answering your question. The reason, how does it, well, like I was just talking to someone else who said when he goes to workshops or does workshops, it makes him understand better what he's doing because he's explaining it. So I would teach basic design. I mean, so one day it's line, the next day it's color. And when kids would show me their work, I said, well, what chapter in that book would you put it in? I can ask myself that, what chapter would I put? Well, they all go in the chapter on contrast. Because contrast to me is essential. Although, if you know a painter like Morandi, that's not contrast,
It is in a way.
Yeah, but you're not going to prove it to me. I mean, it's so it's like the music. To me, Morandi is it's beautiful, but and I'm more boom, 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 boom. I'd rather somebody say oh like that rather than ah. But so I live in that world where contrast is essential. I taught. So Johann Eiten was a Bauhaus teacher. That was the essential aspect of all his teaching. Contrast of color, contrast of shape, contrast of value, contrast of... So I deal in that, the yin and the yang of things. I don't think them as conflicting. I don't think of contrast, I think of complements. When things contrast each other, my wife and I contrast each other completely. They were like the 2 different shapes and 2 different colors. But you come together and you have purple, and it's round, but there has to be a tension of some sort, which Morandi has a different kind of tension. It's like a hum, I don't know. And I'm looking for more of a beat, I guess, Are we going out of time or thoughts? Let me see if I have any other thoughts to share. Do you sell much? These are questions.
I got one for you. So, in the poles here, you're working in creating shapes and lines that give a sense of direction and the illusion of an object.
Yeah.
And the contrasts give that object a sense of light and shadow and three-dimensionality. But in this abstract and that abstract and the larger brush strokes in the other room, which I think is the best of the three.
The one with the red thing on the bottom?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the very last one.
They have a sense of space without defining forms because of the negative space that you've left. You've got these brush strokes, and then behind them is a sense of space and light.
You like that?
I like that.
Me too. But I didn't, that's another one. This was the last one. That was the next to last one, because what I was doing was kind of making the brush bigger. You know, like the stroke is bigger. And those little paintings there, it's about the stroke and the different stroke, a bit bigger and smaller strokes. But in a lot of the work I've done, even in that one, when you get down to the bottom, things are falling apart. And in a lot of the recent work, things, not all of them, but in that one too, the one in there, it's called Tremor. I didn't know, that's another thing. How do you title your work? That was another question I didn't get to. I really just felt like I wanted to reduce, and I ended up reducing to fewer strokes, bigger strokes, and it still communicates this destructive disassembling, falling apart of society, of culture, of civics, of civilization, not civilization too. So the last thing I did, and Annie, who did a great job writing that article, Lindenberger, she mentioned, because I mentioned to her, when I brought it in, that little red thing was wet oil paint, because before I brought it in, I wanted that thing to be blood, because to me that's an abstract representation of what's going on, that all the systems are falling apart and people are dying because of it. So they're personal, but they're not, you look at it and say, this guy doing it, these squares. I know what it says to me, and if somebody picks up on that, that's great. I don't expect it to happen, but something's happening that you're not aware of. I think abstraction can communicate. I don't work in color because black and white doesn't have specificity, so you can read into it. If the sky was red and blasting it, you'd see that it'd be like a movie, and a big man would be there, you know, fighting bad guys. But this is just shapes. It doesn't have a feeling. The feeling has to come from your own experience. I'm not telling you it's red or blue. It's not hot or cold. That's why I like black. It gives the viewer a way to think on their own level, I think.
So Leonard, what's bringing the color into some of your smaller works in your room? Where's that work coming from?
That's me happy.
That you have?
Yeah. I look at that, I make those and I'm happy. I see the color, I think of children, I think of candy, I think of stuff. It's a relief from the misery that prevails throughout life, you know? And that's why, like, people have said, here's another question. I know Alfred E. Newman, but who's the other guy? People have asked me that. And that's supposed to be Kafka. And to me, these are like my two views of the world. The world is so screwed up and horrible and hysterically funny and terrible, it scares the hell out of me. That's Kafka. And the other guy says, the world is terrible and it's all screwed up and everything's in danger. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Just let me worry. So they're both looking at the same bad situation, and one says, what the hell? This doesn't bother me. And the other one is just thinking, oh, it's just terrible, it's terrible. And that's me. I mean, the world is glorious and colorful, and the flowers, you see man, dahlias are coming in great this year, you know, and that's nice, and that's what that's about. But this is about the newspaper. It's black and white, truth, you know. I grew up in that era where newspapers were black and white. Now they're like magazines. I don't trust them.
These works really spoken to me. You're talking about the abstraction, I think.
You like that?
You're also talking about you're reducing. So I can see you're reducing, doing repetitive work, but in the same time there isn't same. Was not the same. The strokes not same.
This is fun to make because I would stand there and go, just put them there. Okay, it doesn't curve. It's like dancing or something. It wasn't thinking what it's going to look like. It was just, if this look good next to that one, And actually, a lot of people helped me figure. I didn't know what this was going to be. I had a white center, and I showed it to somebody. Said, "Oh, vortex. Oh yeah, I'll make it a black center." Just like this one. I showed this to somebody. Said, "Oh, I like it, but I see. I don't understand it myself. What would you title it?" And she said, "Emergence." What did you title it? I said, "I titled it Rain Clouds." I saw darkness, and she saw light coming through darkness. So that's, well, she's a happy person. We see the same thing. I never thought it. And then somebody the other day said, "Oh, I love the way it falls off the bottom." I said, "Well, it just happened. I mean, you get tired but somebody sees something in that I don't see, and that's interesting to me. We all see something here and we interpret it, but these are curious, these pictures. Curious why they look good and how they communicate, but I'm happy with them because it keeps me not knowing truth. I have to doubt and wonder what's going on. Are we done, or do you want to keep talking? You raise your hand if you want to keep talking. One more thing.
I talk too much, but, so I'm looking at that one, and I'm looking at that one. And this one, I could take it or leave real easy. That one.
You can't get into it.
I just,
No.
I've been there, done that.
I don't eat sushi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then this one, I go, wow, I've been there, and every stroke, it speaks to me, the black and the white, it's luminous, and I'm seeing this person, and he's suffering a lot, but then there's his eyes, and there's light coming out of his eyes. I mean, I just love that piece.
Well, thank you.
I don't know why anybody would read that one, So
I don't eat sushi.
it's very,
Yeah, it's just a matter of choice. I like them both, and I don't.
Yeah, and you
But,
don't
you know-
even need to know why. See, sometimes I know why I do stuff, and sometimes I don't. But when I finally do, it's really great.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of times that I don't, and so I like the doubt is essential. The doubt is really essential. That's all I have to say.
Here's a question: do you sell much? People ask.
Do I?
No, this is what people have asked me since. And the answer is always no. So why do you keep putting it up? So that people can see it. I wish I didn't have to take them all home, but so why do you keep doing this? I really don't know. I just have to. I have to validate myself. I'm 78 years old. I don't have a job. I do have a little volunteer job, but that's not enough. And I raise kids. They're grown up. They don't need me. So how do I validate my existence as an artist? Well, you got to keep making stuff. And so it's a purpose in life. And I want it to be. It's always discovery, though. Like, I don't know where to go now. I don't know what next picture to make because I ended up with that big square thing, and I'm finished with that series, so I really am looking for something to do. And that's how I work. I was going to say something. No, I don't sell because I never relied upon it. It's a blessing and a curse. Nobody tells me what to paint because nobody's saying, I want to buy another one of your pictures. And no gallery says, we can't do those color things. Everybody loves this big black and white stuff. Keep doing that. I kid myself to say, well, that's the glory of not being attached to galleries, but it's also a nice thing. I can switch tomorrow and start doing, I'm doing plein air painting now. And I go out and I draw, and you can't do that. Nobody wants that from you because this is your business. It's not my business, it's my passion. My business was teaching. My father had a grocery store. That's what we were raised by. His advice to me as far as career goes, don't own your own business. That was it. Work for the man, buy stocks that give dividends. These were his guiding forces to me. And so, yeah, I never owned my own business. I can't keep a desk neat. I can never tell anybody really what to do. So this is how it works. I can tell 30 young kids what to do because they have to listen. You know, here's the game man you have to listen to. So I'm automatically in charge. But I don't like to tell people what to do. Any other questions I have to ask? Are these self-portraits? Well, I'm the cheapest head available, so yeah, there's the self-portraits. How do you title your work? Why do you title your work? My son says you shouldn't title your work. I said, well, how would you know what we're talking about? And so some of the titles are just ambiguous. 4 squiggly lines on a green field. Okay, that tells me what painting we're talking about. These, I mean, I grew up Greek learning all the Greek mythology and stuff. So my gods are Zeus, or what's her name? Medusa. Thor is a friend who's a Viking friend of mine in California. So I named this one Thor because he thinks Thor was the boss. I thought Zeus was the boss. So they're competing. That's Zeus, right? Yeah, that's Zeus. They're made up. This one is very made up. I mean, none of this stuff exists. I just wanted to make a composition that had parts that related to each other, and I used T-square and triangle for this because I like that geometry. So the only thing I did well in Bronx High School of Science was geometry. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say logic gone haywire.
What's gone haywire?
Logic gone haywire.
Okay.
Because that's what this stuff really is like. Because all of the wires, you know, are up there for a reason, for a logic. But here, you wonder, what happened to the logic? Somebody scrambled it.
Yeah. And those they look like when you look up close.
What's great about it. And what I like about them is they're so inventive, so much more inventive than the abstract stuff. I mean, when you take that circle there of a very fine, you pointed out that top.
That's Paul Klee.
But, you know, that is totally different from this. And talk about contrast. I call it opposites, combining opposites.
Okay.
That's how I think of it. The combination and all the inventions of the devices, you know, the wire connectors and stuff like that, these things are like inventions, but they're crazy inventions, and that's what's so compelling about them. So it makes them so powerful.
Thank you. I have friends who work on these poles, and they like them.
You bet.
I have friends who are actually in the business, and they look at them and say, oh, you really got it. I have not got it. This is no such thing, you know. But he lives in that world. He recognizes the chaos and the order that's there.
Yeah, well, I work with electricity, so I understand it.
I don't have anything else to ask or say. Yes?
Have you decided yet what work you'll be showing at the Kent this fall?
Oh, they decided. Okay. And they're taking a few things, the baseball and this one and that one.
Did they
they're taking about 5 or 6 things.
Did they do a studio visit earlier to decide?
Actually, they came here because most of the stuff was here.
That's
most of that, probably, I never heard of the Kent meet. Have you been there?
I had worked there a few years ago.
Oh, it's amazing. It's in the middle of nowhere, up in Calais, Vermont.
A lot of history to that building.
And yeah, the building is owned by the state. It's preserved in the way that it was whenever they took it over, which means some walls are lath, some walls are wallpaper. It looks like it must have looked 100 years ago. It's been there for a couple hundred years. And every October, November, or September, October, they have one big gala affair where they invite artists from the area. I got lucky this year and they invited me. So that's what we're talking about. So I have to bring, they like 5 or 6 of these. So the day I take it down, I'm going to bring the work up there at the end of the month.
Where is this?
Calais,
It's near
it's like Calais, French. It's north 2.5 hours or so. Close to Burlington, driving distance, short distance. Literally, you think there's nothing here, and then there's this big corner called Kent's Corner, where there's activity. So, I'm really pleased you folks shut up. It's really nice, and I was nervous. I shouldn't have been so nervous. So thanks.
James Brown, and they